If you complain about housing prices today, an older relative has almost certainly told you this story. You think 7% interest is bad? In 1981, my mortgage rate was 18%. We had to eat beans on toast just to pay the bank. They aren't lying. The numbers are real. But there is a massive silent difference between an 18% interest rate on a $60,000 house and a 7% interest rate on a $500,000 house. One was a painful hill to climb. The other is a mathematical cliff that no amount of hard work can scale. Welcome to Adrian Brix Years. Today, we are settling the biggest generational debate at the dinner table. Who actually had it harder? We are going to look at the Volcker Shock of the 1980s, when borrowing money cost as much as a credit card, and compare it to the silent crisis of the 2020s. We will prove with facts why high interest rates were actually a blessing in disguise for the boomer generation, and why the modern low-rate era has trapped young Americans in a cycle of forever debt. Let's travel back to October 1981. The Federal Reserve Chairman Paul Volcker is waging war on inflation. To stop prices from rising, he raises the federal funds rate to unprecedented levels. The average 30-year fixed mortgage hits 18.6%. Let's be honest, that is a terrifying number. If you borrowed money to buy a car or a house, nearly 20 cents of every dollar you paid went straight to the bank as interest. It forced families to be incredibly frugal. You didn't go on vacation. You didn't buy new furniture. You put every spare dime into the mortgage because the interest was eating you alive. But here is the context that usually gets left out. In 1980, the median home price in America was roughly $40 out of $200. The median household income was about $21,000. This is the golden ratio. A house cost roughly 2.5 times your annual salary. This meant that the principal, the actual amount of money you borrowed, was small. Yes, the interest rate was high, but because the loan balance was so low, you could attack it. If you worked a slightly better job or picked up overtime, you could pay off that $47,000 relatively quickly. The barrier to entry was low. The down payment on a $47,000 house at 20% was roughly $9,400. That was about 5 months of gross salary. It was painful, but it was possible. Culturally, this created a mindset of hustle. The enemy was the rate, and you could beat the rate by paying early. Now, let's look at today. The interest rates are hovering around 6% or 7%. By historical standards, that sounds reasonable. But the price tag attached to that rate has exploded. The median home price in the U.S. is now hovering near $420,000. The median household income is around $75,000. The ratio has jumped from 2.5x to nearly 6x or 7x your annual salary. In some cities, it is 10x. Here's why this is worse than 18% interest, the down payment barrier. To put 20% down on a $420,000 home, you need $84,000 in cash. That is more than the average American makes in an entire year before taxes. In 1980, you could save for a house in 2 or 3 years of disciplined saving. Today, for an average worker, the math says it takes 12 to 15 years to save that down payment. By the time you save it, the price has gone up again. This is the principal trap. Because the loan amount is so massive, $300,000 or $400,000, even a low interest rate of 6% results in a monthly payment that crushes you. But unlike the 1980s, you can't hustle your way out of it. You can't just pick up a few extra shifts to pay off a $500,000 loan. The debt is too heavy. It isn't a hill anymore, it's a mountain. So who actually paid more? Let's run the receipts. Scenario A, 1981. You buy a $47,000 home at 18% interest. Your monthly payment, principal and interest is roughly $700. Adjusted for inflation, that $700 feels like $2,400 today. Scenario B, 2024. You buy a $420,000 home at 7% interest. Your monthly payment is roughly $2,800. On the surface, the monthly pain is almost the same. Both generations felt house poor. But here's the twist, the equity speed. In the 1980s, inflation was high, 10% plus. This meant your wages were likely rising fast. Every year, your fixed $700 payment felt smaller and smaller because your paycheck was getting bigger and bigger. Inflation was the friend of the debtor. It eroded the value of your debt. Today, wage growth is slow. That $2,800 payment stays heavy for decades. You don't get the inflation discount your parents got. The biggest realization is about hope. In 1982, if you had cash in the bank, life was amazing. You could put your savings in a certificate of deposit, CD, and earn 12% to 14% interest guaranteed. Think about that. You could double your money every 6 years without risking a cent in the stock market. The economy rewarded savers. If you were responsible, you won. Today, if you put money in a savings account, you get 0.5% or maybe 4% if you're lucky. Meanwhile, the price of housing rises by 6% or 10% a year. The economy now punishes savers. If you save cash, you're losing. You are forced to gamble in the stock market just to keep up. This is why the modern generation feels so anxious. In the 80s, the game was hard, but the rules were fair. If you saved, you bought a house. If you paid extra, you killed the mortgage. Today, the game feels rigged. The goalposts keep moving. You save $10,000, but the house price goes up by $20,000. So, did the boomers have it hard? Yes. Paying 18% interest is psychologically terrifying. It required real sacrifice. We should not dismiss their struggle. They ate generic brand food and drove cars until the wheels fell off to pay that banknote. But they had an advantage they didn't realize: accessibility. They could get into the game. The ticket to the stadium was cheap, even if the concessions were expensive. Today, the stadium is locked. The price of admission, the down payment, is so high that millions of hard-working Americans are left in the parking lot, looking in. We have traded high interest, low price for low interest, impossible price. And mathematically, a high price is always worse than a high rate. You can refinance a rate. You can never refinance the purchase price. You are stuck with that number forever. I want to hear from both sides. If you bought a house in the 80s, tell us, how did you survive 18%? What did you have to give up? And if you're trying to buy today, what is your biggest barrier? Is it the monthly payment or the down payment? Let's talk honestly in the comments. And if you want to understand the economic history that shaped your wallet, subscribe to Adrian Brix Years. We treat your time and your money with respect.